It's an honor to be here and to speak on this subject. I hope I actually bring a good word.
Never brought a bad one yet.
Well, you just never know. I do appreciate you inviting me to speak. It's good to see everybody. Occasionally I see somebody out somewhere and out and about, and it's always good to see. Of course, I see Nathan every day. Okay, well, this issue of sanctity of human life is such a very important issue. I can't remember if I was watching or reading something recently, and I think it was somebody in Canada, I'm sure. Is this coming through okay? Okay, just making sure. And he was talking about there's no such thing as sanctity of human life because life is not sacred, because there is no God. He does not believe there's a God, so therefore, I was like, that was paraphrased. That was just paraphrased. It wasn't, the words were there. Life is not sacred. I was like,
And the problem is it's becoming a prevalent viewpoint.
it is a very prevalent viewpoint, especially if you don't agree with me. If you don't agree with me, then you're just a Nazi. So anyway, but this is a very multifaceted subject. It covers a whole gamut of things. It's not just abortion. It's eugenics. It's adoption. It's euthanasia, assisted suicide. I mean, it covers a wide view of life at this point, especially now. Of course, it seems to run in cycles. It seems like this was going on like 100 years ago, or less, actually, or less. I recently heard about a documentary movie thing, and I'm going to have to get it because we've all heard of the 1619 Project. Well, this is called the 1916 Project, and it's when Margaret Sanger opened Planned Parenthood in I think New York City, and her history. It's it's very bad. It's probably worse than we actually know. And what I know is really bad. And I've studied her a lot, including reading her papers that are sometimes on a university website. Of course, they may have taken that down after she was demonized by BLM. But I'm going to cover euthanasia and assisted suicide first, because this is a big thing. It doesn't seem so big here because nobody's really talking about it. But when you listen to the news, sometimes certain news, you find out what's going on in other countries, and you're like, if it's there, it's coming here. And it's already tried to come here several times, and I think it may be, I should have done better research. I think it may be legal in a couple states. I'm not really 100% sure, yeah. The definition for euthanasia is also called mercy killing. It's the act of killing someone painlessly, especially to relieve suffering from an incurable illness, supposedly for a willing individual. Yeah, that's, nowadays, supposedly. It's a very hotly argued topic. I've been kind of keeping up with this since, what was that doctor's name? That Dr. Suicide. Kevorkian, that's the one, Jack Kevorkian. I remember watching him being cross-examined on the stand, and he just sat there and stared at people. And then I heard him in an interview say, they were being so stupid, there was nothing I could do but just sit there and stare at them. I'm like, okay, dude. Assisted suicide and euthanasia are touted as necessary to prevent intense pain and suffering with people with terminal diseases. Now, Wanda, who I don't see right now.
Good salad.
Salad's good. Salad's a good thing. She would have more information on this than I do, since she works in that field. But these are real people with real concerns, and people with cancer and other terminal diseases, and especially bone cancers. And when you get into the the stage 4s and end of life, would be very painful. But there has been great advances in pain management and hospice care, and these should be extremely rare. And as time goes on, the advances should be even better and better, where there's at least some quality of life. The goal is to alleviate pain. There is ignorance by some medical professionals and personnel for the advancements and treatments. A lot of doctors don't, they're busy. They don't keep up with everything that's going on. They should. But, they're tied up with paperwork, I'm sure. And then there are also prejudices against those who are disabled, the elderly, the indigent, as well as race and gender has been well documented. Well, this person they're not as valuable. Oh, they're just old. They probably don't know what's going on anyway. Oh, they're just whatever. We were talking about you, Wanda. No, you're a valuable one. That wasn't what we're talking. We're talking about you were in the field of hospice care, and you would know this subject better than I do about end of life care and pain management and different things. But that's the issue that needs to be addressed. It's not the person that's in pain; it's the care the person's getting. That's what needs to be addressed. The medical system is failing these people in horrible ways in some circumstances. I saw a quote recently, and it said, "We fail if our solution to suffering is to kill those who suffer." I thought that was very profound. It's just like, you just kind of sit and think about it for a minute. Yes. If your solution to suffering is to kill the sufferer, that's, doctors are to first do no harm. And if you have doctors that are killing their patients legally, that kind of, how would you trust your doctor?
Exactly.
I saw or your loved one's doctor. Yeah, your doctor, your loved one's doctor. It's kind of like a friend of mine, when she had her first baby, they said, you're not going to give her the Hep B vaccine as soon as she's born. You will not do this. Or Hep C, whichever one it is, they give them first, like within minutes of being born. Yeah. Anyway.
Dangerous vaccine to start with.
Yeah. And that should only be for children at risk from mothers who have certain issues. Not, we were virgins when we got married and we've been together and we have a baby. And matter of fact, when they had to take the baby to neonatal for something, she's like, you go with them and watch.
Yes.
And he did, because obviously she couldn't jump off the table and go.
Super mom, right?
She would have been. So I've heard the arguments for euthanasia and assisted suicide, and they sound compassionate because we want to help people. We want to alleviate pain. We don't want someone to suffer, and it sounds so compassionate. And how many brutal genocides have happened out of compassion? Nazi Germany, one of the first, they didn't start out killing the Jews. They started out killing the ill and infirmed and the disabled. And I didn't write the number down, but I saw, gosh, I wish I could remember, how many babies with deformities or disabilities that were killed by the Nazi regime. It was like it seems like it was 120,000, but that could be a wrong number. So don't quote me on that one, because I saw the number. It's jumbled with a bunch of other numbers.
Margaret Sanger's book.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, they knew her personally.
Yes.
They loved her. Yes. She was a great lady. If you love the devil, of course. Yes, it is, isn't it? So they always say, well, there's safeguards in place. This will not happen here. We will not kill people, or we will not euthanize people. They don't say kill people. We will not euthanize people who aren't in certain situations. We're not going to, we would never do that. That could not happen. We've got safeguards in place.
I like Canada.
But that appears to be happening in every single country that legalizes it. The Dutch now allow involuntary euthanasia for incompetent patients and may have already, or at least drawn up, and I think they already have, drawn up guidelines for euthanizing handicapped newborns. So euthanasia is supposed you're supposed to consent to it, but a newborn has no ability to consent. Coma.
Oh, my.
I mean, you just think about the illnesses. Dementia, Alzheimer's. We're out of liberal. We're out of hospital beds, and our health dollars are so scarce. They must be incompetent. They signed this form after we harassed them and bullied them for a week, nonstop. So our neighbors in Canada, speaking of Canada, are moving at a rapid rate. They legalized euthanasia and assisted suicide. Sorry, that was easy for you to say, not me. They legalized in 2016, so it's been 10 years. And they've been on a rapid decline ever since. Their program is it's the Canadian MAID, M-A-I-D, for Medical Assistance in Dying program, and was only supposed to be for competent adults with grievous and irremediable conditions. But it never lasts long, We're going to be compassionate, Canada has nationalized health care, so you only have so many health care dollars. So, I was listening to Glenn Beck recently, and there was a woman that just had some thyroid problem that just needed a small surgery, but they didn't have anybody that could do the surgery. So Glenn Beck raised the money from listeners and getting doctors involved to bring her to the United States for that surgery, so she wouldn't have to be euthanized. So you can imagine how many people this is happening to. Yeah, she was expecting it, and it wasn't anything that serious. It was just yeah. And then I remember a story. There was a woman who was a vet, and she was disabled because of her injuries, and she needed some upgrades to her house, and they offered her euthanasia so she wouldn't have to suffer. I mean, it's gotten really bad up there. I don't think this is the case now. I'm not sure. I couldn't verify it, but I remember 2 or 3 years ago, they were talking about death parties for assisted suicide. So the patient that wanted to take themselves out would get a lethal dose, and then they would just have they'd have this little death room, and they would have the party with their whoever wanted to come, and they would just kind of have a little celebration, and then poof, off. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a thing. And then some are just doing it at, we're just doing it at funeral homes, because why not? So they were really. I mean, just crazy things, and I hope none of my facts are wrong, because I remember these pretty clearly, because I remember kind of looking at articles going, did that really happen? In 2024, a record 16,499 people died, at a number of 5.1% of all deaths in Canada. This was a 6.9% increase from 2023. As of 2024 into 2025, I think, right in there, 1 in 20 deaths in Canada were by euthanasia and assisted suicide. Yeah. And it's that bad. In 2023, there were under 5 cases of assisted suicide, because why do it yourself? In 2024, there were no cases of assisted suicide. Every person died under the MAID program by euthanasia. And assisted suicide is where the person wishing to end their own life is given access to a lethal drug that they administer themselves. So the MAID program is on track to expand now to mental health patients. Mature minors. And mature minors are minors deemed to have the appropriate decision-making capacity. So I'm 14 and depressed, so therefore, what teenager at 14 is not depressed?
So they've got mental health problems. problems, then how do they possess the mental capacity
Sanctity.
to make a decision?
Well, no, that you've got mental health patients over here, then you've got mature minors over here.
Mhm.
But, they could have, there are, juvenile diabetes, there's juvenile cancers, there's all this. That's what, who is supposedly intended for was like end of life.
It's just a slippery slope.
It is. That's what's always intended for. And newborns with disabilities or severe deformities. That's coming in soon. Several prisoners have also been euthanized. I think the number I saw was like 5. But the death penalty, I think, is still illegal in Canada for prisoners. I mean, it just gets stranger and stranger. It's like, do you even have 2 brain cells that are connecting together? These, here's an injection, right? But we're not like them, so we don't do the same things they do. We just hope God gets a hold of them and pulls them out. I mean, how many abortion providers has God gotten a hold of and pulled them out? That's what we want. We don't want,
Amen.
we're not supposed to, what's the right term? To completely seek the defeat of the enemy person is the defeat of what they're planning to do or have done. We're all still learning. We want God to intervene. Look at the Apostle Paul.
Mhm.
I mean, he killed Christians. He loved killing Christians. He was energized to kill Christians. And then he became the most prolific writer in the New Testament. Right? He always pulls the note. Abby Johnson, who was director of the Planned Parenthood clinic in Houston, Texas, one of the top clinics in the country or in Texas or whatever. He pulls these people out. Dr. Carol Everett, she was, God was kind of calling her, but she was still performing abortions. She had performed an abortion, and they have to, if it's a surgical abortion, they have to, especially vacuum suction, or all of them, they have to put the baby back together to make sure all the parts are there, because if you leave parts in, you've got infection and sepsis.
This
Yes.
is the one the Unplanned movie was based on?
No, Abby Johnson.
Abby Johnson?
Yeah, she didn't perform abortion. She was director of the clinic. But she sat in on an abortion. And the one they showed in the movie could not have been the one she saw, because they did a suction abortion on I forgot how many weeks the baby was, but when I looked it back up, I'm like, they can't do suction on that. The bones are starting to get hard. They have to go and tear it limb by limb and pull it out.
Jesus.
Amen. So unless I'm wrong, but the one they show in the movie's bad enough.
Mhm.
But I was like, that baby's bones are more solid. They can't just suction it and it's bigger. So that's what I'm guessing. I've never heard her say that though. So these policies are eugenics and also Nazi at this point. Real Nazi, like I said, not the fake ones. Mature minors are still not of an age that they should be able to make this kind of life and death decisions. Kind of like transgender surgery. You're not old enough yet to know if in 5 years all of this changes, that you've just been programmed for this, and that you've been basically brainwashed, and then when you're 21, 22, you decide, what did I do? I want to get married and have children. My brain woke up. Men's brains don't even really fully awake until what, 25?
50. Well, I just turned 30, so.
Well, my opinion's always been, after being around quite a few men, is men are like 2-year-olds till they're about 70, and then they turn 3.
That's true.
So,
Amen.
but the brain, scientifically, I think the brain of a young man is supposed to be, like more fully functional at 25. So, somewhere around there. Women a little younger, because, but ours still goes to sleep in the teenage years. It's just all whoo. Well, men's brains are severed by testosterone wash. So that was God designed so that they're not supposed to be completely, women have, we can do, 5 or 6 things at one time, sometimes more. Less sleeps, yeah, sometimes. Yes, snooze alarms, yes. Over and over, and I experienced that this morning, over and over and over again.
Nathan had to wake up.
Yes, and Rachel, the dog, Rachel, both of them were very helpful in that department. But, we don't even let them buy beer legally
Right.
until they're 21, and you're supposed to be able to make a decision that, I just want to end it all like now. Yes, my boyfriend broke up with me. My life is over. Nothing good will ever happen. It's But yeah, that's right. That's one of the stories some of the stories I've heard. It's just like, what are y'all doing up there? You're way too close to our border to be doing this. So now the issue of abortion. We had a great victory with the overturning of Roe v. Wade in June 24th of 2022. It was amazing. It was a great win. A little more time. Not the banning of abortion in all 50 states, because that was a big thing. Oh no, abortion's illegal. No, just might be in your state. So Tennessee made abortion illegal. So we should be, and yes, no. A D&C for a miscarriage was never made illegal. That's just good health care, because otherwise a woman could get sepsis and die. I mean, come on. I actually had a friend of mine on Facebook saying, my miscarriage was not illegal. I'm like, no, it wasn't. It was a miscarriage. It was natural. It was the natural loss of a child. It was not an abortion, which is not natural to the body. A miscarriage is actually natural for the body. The body will pass it, or if it doesn't, that's why you have a D&C, get it out, clean everything out. But it's not, it's natural in the body. An abortion is not natural in any way, shape, or form. But the battle still rages. So what are the first things that happened? Planned Parenthood in Illinois built a large facility close to the border of Tennessee. It was within 3 hours driving or less.
Too close.
Way too close. A large facility close to the border. First, I think they had mobile units. They had the mobile abortion unit outside the D&C convention during the election. So you could go get your abortion and go into the D&C. It's all good.
Yeah, let's vote for Kamala.
He needs to be perf walked. Planned Parenthood centers across the country offered potential clients, guest cards to help them to get to where they needed to go, or other helps to get to other abortion clinics out of state. And I looked up several clinics that were offering these things. Yes, we will give you a so many dollar gas gift card for you to go, or so many dollars gift card so that you can go and then stay overnight and then come back. I mean, it was just brazen right on their website. Boom. Yes, if you need help in getting abortion is illegal in the state of Tennessee. If you need help to access women's reproductive rights, then contact us and we will help you. But now another problem has exploded. So, we thought everything was great. Well, remember 2020? COVID years? COVID. Think COVID. Telehealth, telemedicine. Guess what happens now in states where it's illegal to access an abortion? Just go online. So someone I know, let's see, there is very easy access to abortion drugs via mail, through email, or telehealth. I didn't mean to choke you up, I'm sorry. So someone I know went online and ordered them. It took 3 minutes on a website, posing as a young woman. There was no medical consultation, no chat, no confirmation of pregnancy or even age, no prescription. He, yes he, ordered these posing as a 25-year-old woman and had them shipped in his name. He did this exactly to see how easy this was to do, because he knew somebody else who had done the same thing. She, being a young millennial woman, went online. She said in 3 minutes, the only thing she didn't do was click send or, bill or whatever. She didn't do that. She went through everything else. She's like, it's like 3 minutes. I didn't have to verify anything. There was just, and they were sent. So he did it so that he could turn. And I saw the box, I saw the shipping package. He sent, I haven't heard any details, but he sent that to TBI to let them know how easy this would be for sex traffickers to get, yeah.
Wow.
So it's super easy. There's no verification of pregnancy or age. So how many sex traffickers, abusive husbands or boyfriends, cases of incest, are ordering these, enforcing these on their victims? And there was a doctor somewhere that gave his girlfriend those, and he's being sued because he forced them on her, or he drugged her drink with them, or something. Trying to remember the case, but I think he drugged her drink and she drank it, and yeah. Which seems kind of, because you're supposed to take one. Oh, and then there for a while, you're supposed to take the first pill. There's actually a program nationwide called Abortion Pill Reversal, where if you catch it, don't take the second pill, and you can get with a doctor within so many hours, there's a very good chance that they can reverse that by giving progesterone shots or something throughout the rest of the pregnancy. And it can actually reverse the abortion. And I saw a calendar that had 12 months, and it was all babies that were saved through this program.
Wow.
So it doesn't always work, but it is an option. But then they started giving the girls the pills the same day, just take them both in the clinics, so that there's no reversal. You can't once the second pill's been taken. So, what about the scared and underage teenage girls that are in their bedroom and passing their babies in the toilet and on the bathroom floor, and they were never told what was going to happen? Could some of these be from counterfeit websites? Because you think about it, this wasn't telehealth that these two did. They just went online and ordered. It wasn't telehealth. But I know that they do, they do a lot of the Planned Parenthoods and abortion clinics in the states where it's legal, they will do telehealth. But you're still not getting an ultrasound to confirm pregnancy. If you had a miscarriage, if you just have a positive pregnancy test, you could have had a miscarriage, because the HCG hormone can still show up for several weeks, 3 or 4 or 5 weeks. So you may think you're pregnant and not be. Could have an ectopic pregnancy, which is extremely dangerous. You didn't have an ultrasound. I mean, we're talking serious stuff. And guess which administration legalized this? I know. It wasn't this one. He's not as pro-life as I would like him to be, but he wouldn't do this. So are these some of these counterfeit? I wasn't reading a book. I was listening to a book, and it was one of these, it's suspense. But the guy that writes the books puts a lot of really interesting information in them. He's a profiler for the FBI catching serial killers, but he's an environmental profiler, not a psychological profiler. Big difference, apparently. But he did a whole thing on counterfeit drugs coming out of India and how closely they match everything here, including all the packaging, everything. But the lot number may be off by 1 or 2 numbers or letters or something. And nobody really checks them. So that was really interesting. So, people order drugs by mail because it's so much cheaper. It could have anything in it. So, he did a whole thing on that, and I could tell he's researched this. And actually what was interesting was in one of the books at the end, he did like a little interview, and he was talking about the particular serial killer that had been talked about in the book as a reference. He said that, it was a father and son, and the father was going to kill this teacher for not passing him in a certain subject, and this author's dad was that teacher. So, it seemed to have a little bit of, little bit of information. But anyway, it was really interesting. I got to thinking about, if you order anything online, how do you know where you're actually getting it from? You really don't. Right, yeah. Amazon. You just don't know. Don't order medicine through. Yeah, I don't know about the Amazon pharmacy. I just don't know. Never ordered anything from there. Right? So, who would know if the client had an ectopic pregnancy or had a miscarriage or had a viable pregnancy? Because if you're pregnant but you're in the process of miscarriage and the baby's still there, without an ultrasound, you have no way of knowing. Our FDA is supposed to be reviewing this, but they're being very slow about it. So, the number I got was 76,310 abortions occurred through telehealth prescriptions mailed from pro-abortion states into pro-life states in 2024. There were an estimated 1.1 million abortions in 2024. That's a number from years ago. This is not any better. This is worse. And who knows if that's even right, because people are getting these drugs off just websites. And then you've got sex traffickers, and they're buying them and hoarding them for the emergency. By the end of 2023, there were approximately 8,000 prescriptions a month from abortion providers mailed into pro-life states. That's coming close to 100,000 per year. And there was still not a patient seeing a doctor for verification of pregnancy. These are only supposed to be used and effective up to 10 to 11 weeks of pregnancy. Anything past that is not even supposed to be. So, how many girls do you think actually know how far along they really are? You know how many I've taken notice of that thought they were 6, 7 weeks? They were 12, 14 weeks? Because they just didn't know. So these girls are taking them at home, often by themselves, passing the baby in the toilet or in the bathroom floor, and they're seeing their baby. Not a clump of cells, but a fully formed tiny baby. So I pulled an article that I had seen a couple years ago, and the print is extremely small, so I'm going to try to read this, and that's after I enlarged it so I could get it on 2 pages and not 10. Okay, so this was an article from Live Action. It was a Reddit poster, somebody posting on Reddit, and she shares her traumatic abortion pill experience, and it's titled, "I Just Want My Baby Back." So I'm sorry you guys, I've got to really look closely here. A Reddit poster, and this was a couple years ago, recently shared the story of her abortion pill experience, including 2 photos of her 10-week-old deceased baby, which she named Bean, like Little Bean. Her comments illuminate the trauma and anguish that many women experience after taking the abortion pill. So, quote, 20 minutes ago I had an MA, medical abortion, or medication abortion, at home, and it was the most painful thing I'd ever gone through. I'm so sorry, Little Bean. The poster, known by such and such handle, Bean was moving its legs and heart was still beating when they came out in one push. In another comment, the poster described the entire abortion pill process, sharing that she began to vomit and experienced severe cramping a few hours after taking misoprostol, the second drug in the abortion pill regime. First, my water broke, then another push later, baby came out quite quickly along with big clots. I immediately felt relief, so I grabbed a glove and fished in the toilet, and the baby was in there. As soon as I pulled baby out, legs were moving, and I could still feel the heartbeat in my hand. Heartbeat slowly faded and stopped moving. Definitely the most traumatic thing either of us have been through. The poster expressed that she was not told how painful the experience would be. I feel like I wasn't given all the info I needed going into it, she wrote, adding, I was told it would feel like a period, but my experience was much worse. Definitely the most pain I've ever felt in my whole life, and wish I was prepared for it. In another comment, she said, I literally gave birth, and nobody told me it would be like that. The contractions were so intense it was unbearable. About 15 minutes before it was out, I started telling my partner to call someone because I couldn't handle it anymore. She also stated she was not prepared to see her baby. I was not informed the fetus would be whole. So it was quite a shocking moment when I saw it. I don't think I was prepared well enough at all for the entire experience, the poster shared. I consulted with a doctor, and unfortunately they did not mention once that I would see that and what to do with it after. She posted, adding, I feel they were sugar-coated all of it to make it seem easy, but it was one of the hardest things I've ever been through. They definitely need to be more honest about the pain and the process. Let's see. The poster expressed ambivalence about her experience in the comments. In the comments section, 17 hours after her initial post, she wrote, that first word is just feeling incredibly empty. When you're pregnant, you feel so full and purposeful, and now I feel just numb and empty inside. My little bump is gone. The constant nausea is gone. I simply feel nothing at this point. I finally broke down and had a good cry since that happened, regretting my decision, but knowing it was the only right and fair decision to make. Later, she said, it was not an easy choice. It was one I thought about for a long time trying to decide. Now I'm not sure I made the right decision. It's definitely the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and one that I regret. I'll never forget that experience ever. Days after the experience, she wrote, Life still feels like a sick fever dream that I can't escape. Finally concluding, I just want my baby back. This is so hard. So this is what these poor girls are experiencing by themselves with no doctor. Nobody around. And then how about those that hemorrhage? One doctor wrote that there's an explosion of these women coming to emergency rooms in Tennessee and Texas because they're hemorrhaging, the pain, they've been bleeding for a while, and they never saw a doctor to begin with. So it's horrible. They're lied to. They just don't know what they're supposed, what was going to happen. It's just, it'll feel, it was even in the movie Unplanned. It'll feel like menstrual cramps, and then she's laying in the floor in the bathroom, double over in a fetal position in extreme pain. It's like that. And then she calls back days later, and I'm still bleeding. And they just do nothing. It'll pass. It'll be okay. So I was going to move on from there, but I thought we would cover a little bit of eugenics, just a little bit, because that seems to, we've got designer babies, we can do genetic testing and stuff, and we can, I forgot how many Down syndrome babies were aborted in the UK last year, but it was like a large number, in the hundreds. I'm like, you're aborting the best kids on earth? Give me a break. So the history of eugenics started it goes back further than that, but in the United States, it started in the 1800s to early 1900s. It was pushed by the progressives. Yep. The word eugenics comes from EU, meaning good, and genetics in birth. So eugenics means well-born. Francis Galton, Darwin's cousin, termed this in 1883. The goal is to create a superior race of humans. Doesn't it, though? Eugenics was a popular idea, especially among the elites of that time period, but it goes way, way back. Plato believed in trying to create a perfect society and believed human reproduction should be monitored and controlled by the state for the betterment of the human race. In Athens, Greece, city elders examined newborn babies to determine who would live and who would die. In the Romans 12 tablets of law, in tablet 4 it states, "A dreadfully deformed child shall be killed." In 1910, the American Breeders Association, with Carnegie Foundation funding, formed the Eugenics Record Office, or the ERO. The mission of the ERO was to identify the most defective and undesirable Americans, which was at least 10% of the population, and appropriate remedies would be used to identify defective germ plasma and terminate their bloodlines. Sounds sterile and, medical. Follow the science. This was mainly done through state-sponsored sterilization. Harry H. Laughlin, director of the ERO, published a model eugenical sterilization law which authorized sterilization of the socially inadequate, people supported in institutions or maintained wholly or in part by public expense. The law encompassed diseased, insane, criminalistic, epileptic, inebriate, blind, deaf, deformed, dependent, including orphans, ne'er-do-wells, tramps, homeless, and paupers. Between 1907 to 1963, over 64,000 people were forcibly sterilized under eugenic legislation in the United States. In the U.S., eugenics was not believed to bring on genocide until the Nazi death camps. The Nazis got their beginning eugenics ideas from the progressives in America and from Darwin, whose famous evolution book is called or the preservation of favored races and the struggle for life. And it is on the cover. I don't know if they still put it on there now, but it is on the originals for sure. If we all just evolved from the goo to the zoo to you, then it doesn't matter. It's just survival of the fittest. You're not fit, we'll just take you out. You have no worth. Margaret Sanger she was not just a eugenics advocate, but she also strongly believed in forced sterilization. Her plan, it wasn't called Planned Parenthood at first, but her goal was to, for birth control, which was illegal in the country at that time, and she was actually arrested. She believed, I wonder why BLM got upset with her. She believed that black and brown people and poor white trash were human weeds and should not procreate. And she said much worse than that. That was the cleaned up version. She had a project called I'm sorry, but this is the official name. It's called the Negro Project, where they befriended black pastors and to let them know how great birth control and sterilization was, and that they needed to promote it. So they would put, and they still do this today, they'll put black and brown people as receptionists, especially in mostly minority communities, which is where most Planned Parenthoods are, so that when the person comes in, they see somebody that looks like them and they feel more comfortable. And I think the last recipient of the Margaret Sanger Award was a black abortionist who did late-term abortions. It wasn't Gosnell, but this was a few years ago. It was before 2020. So the whole thing is just criminal. It's still, I can't remember which group it was, probably Project Veritas, called across the country to like 95 different abortion clinics and asked if they did mammograms and different things, because we're all about women's health care. And none of them said, yes, we do mammograms. They all said, or several of them said, we're an abortion facility, we perform abortions. Not, oh, women's health care, we care about women, we do mammograms, we do, test, they probably do STI testing and stuff, but they are also the largest provider of cross-sex hormones in the country today. So, if abortion is illegal in your state, then you can still, until it's outlawed, give cross-sex hormones to underage teens, and they're in the school systems in liberal areas. They're not really allowed in some areas. They may not be allowed in Tennessee too, but I know some states they're right in there in sex ed. They've written the most sexually explicit, pornographic sex ed material in the country for our teens. And they're also heavily funded by the United States of America, even though they're a 501c3, and they take in millions in donations. So that's a very brief history of the beginning of eugenics in this country. I could go into more, how the Nazis looked at Jim Crow laws and different laws that we had in the United States for keeping certain undesirables from voting and keeping them in certain areas so they couldn't be out. You've got the Jewish ghetto in different places, and I listened to a book a couple times of this young teenage girl who was trying to remember the country. It seems like she was Dutch, but I'm not 100% sure. And she rescued like 19 Jewish people in an attic. And at one point in time, some of the family that was part of this were in the ghetto. So she had gone in and out of the ghetto and knew what it was like. She also, her and her younger sister also protected these Jewish people when Germany forced them to take in 2 Nazi nurses to live in their apartment. And they had Jews in the attic. So it's a very, very powerful story. The Lord is very angry with the killing of the innocent. The shedding of innocent blood. There's lots, there's been a lot of uninnocent bloodshed. He didn't always have a problem with that because the Lord can kill and the Lord can make alive. I heard this quote about a month ago or so, and it really hit hard. It's one of those things you just stop and think about for a little while. It was from Peter Kreeft, Kreeft, and he's a Catholic philosopher. And I read quite a few of his quotes, and man, he's good. I mean, on this level, this is awesome. But this was the one I want us to pay attention to. Quote, "Abortion is the Antichrist demonic parody of the Eucharist. That's why it uses the same holy words. This is my body." With the blasphemous opposite meaning.
Wow.
This is my body. It's the same phrasing for abortion and transgender surgery. This is my body. I'll do with it what I want. Both of them stop God's commands to be fruitful and multiply. The abortion mantra is, this is my body, and you, meaning the baby, must die so I can live. Christ said, this is my body broken for you. I must die so you can live. Satan would kill God if he could, but he can't. So he kills the baby so it breaks the Father's heart. And it causes chaos in the lives of the women who get abortions. There's so many women who've had abortions that were that never told anybody. It causes chaos in their families, especially if it's ever found out.
Breaks some of the father's heart.
Yeah, and the fathers. We had a speaker at Birth Choice one time, I think probably twice actually, and his ministry was to the men, the fathers of abortion, because so many of them did not consent, but their consent is not required. Their consent is required for adoption. And if the mother keeps the baby, they're supposed to be responsible for the baby. But when it comes to abortion, this is my body. You have no say. Abortion is fundamentally theological and spiritual. And I thought that was one of the best quotes for the Christian I've ever heard on this. I mean, that was just like, wow. Apparently this man was born in 1937. He's still alive today. It's like, ooh, good for him. Yes. Sacrificing children to Moloch was the same as most abortions today. So the God would bless him with prosperity. It's for my future. I can't have a child right now. It's not the best time to have a baby right now. I can't afford a child. So let's go to Genesis 2. It's amazing how many people who survived all of that. Genesis 2, 26 through 28. We should all know this. Actually, it's Genesis 1. I don't know what I was thinking. Genesis 1, 26 through 28. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image, so the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth." And then Psalm 139. Verses 13 through 16. "For you formed my inward parts, you covered me in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are your works, and that my soul knows very well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in secret, and skillfully wrought in the lowest parts of the earth. Your eyes saw my substance being yet unformed, and in your book they were all written, the days fashioned for me, when as yet there were none of them." You know, the sanctity of human life is all through Scripture. From the greatest commandments, to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. To you shall not murder. Honest scales and honest weights. Not moving boundary stones. How to treat your enemy. There are commands on how to treat the enemy. All the way to the great white throne judgment, when God will raise up all the rest of humanity, and they have a chance. He loves life. He gave us life. He wants us to be with him. In John 10:10. "The thief does not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep." You know, there's a lot more I could cover. I could cover adoption. Adoption's great, a great option. You never say giving up your baby. I always say placing your baby. It takes great sacrifice to place your baby in great love, because that's what it takes. To a family that has the means to support your child and will raise it well, that you can pick. So you can either have closed adoption where the baby doesn't have access to you, maybe only I think now they kind of require some genetic testing, so if there's a problem later in life, they have some genetics to go by. I think, not 100% sure on that. You've got partial adoptions where the birth mother receives information from the adoptive family on their child pictures and updates, or just an open adoption where, you know, she has visits with her child and can, you know, spend time with her child and kind of get to know her child, but not be the legal guardian. I mean, it's great. I mean, the Father adopts us into his kingdom. I mean, with the Holy Spirit, we get the sperm of God, but still he adopts us into, yes, it's hallelujah. He's for adoption. I mean, Moses was adopted. He would have never survived without Pharaoh's sister adopting Moses. So, you know, it's like I said, there's still a lot of hope. I see a lot of people that are standing up for righteousness. States have taken, they're trying to take measures to stop the ability to get these drugs in pro-life states. They're doing very hard. They're trying to convict, but then like New York, they're like, you can't touch our people. You're not going to convict our people. Of course, cross into the state of Tennessee, maybe we need.
I like the way.
You just never know, We would love to see a few people in jail. There's a lot of people right now. They should be perf walked right now. There's enough evidence of crimes. They should be perf walked, not being, not standing in front of microphones encouraging chaos and destruction and putting people's lives in danger. Anyway, well, this is all I have for today. I hope this brought some good information, and I appreciate you having me.